Right now, in these early days of April 2026, the global pop culture landscape is being entirely consumed by a ghost. Taylor Swift has just released the highly anticipated music video for her track titled Elizabeth Taylor. Across millions of screens, audiences are captivated by a mesmerizing, fast-paced montage of archival footage, a rapid-fire sequence of paparazzi flashes, vintage glamour, and the legendary, violet-eyed gaze of Hollywood's ultimate monarch. But if you look closely, if you peel back the superficial layers of pop music and celebrity worship, you will realize that Swift's video is not a nostalgic tribute to a deceased actress. It is an awakening. The camera lingers, almost obsessively, not on the woman, but on the objects she wears. The blinding, icy perfection of the Krupp diamond, the heavy, teardrop silhouette of the La Peregrina pearl, the blood-red fire of the Cartier ruby suite. The world is watching this video and marveling at the ultimate symbols of Hollywood royalty and limitless wealth. They see epic romance. They see the absolute power of the dollar, but they are completely blind to a terrifying truth. These jewels are not props. They are not inert, submissive objects of carbon and mineral. They are ancient, sentient entities, phantoms that have slept in the dark vaults of history and are now, in this very moment, using the most famous pop star on the planet to reassert their dominance over mass culture. They are waking up, and they are manipulating us. Coinciding with this massive cultural moment, media outlets this week have unearthed and heavily circulated a single, prophetic sentence from Elizabeth Taylor's own memoirs. A quote that, until now, was brushed off as mere poetic humility. She wrote, "We are all temporary custodians of beauty." That single sentence is the absolute, undeniable core DNA of everything we explore on this channel. It is a chilling confession from a woman who supposedly had everything money could buy. Today, we are going to completely shatter the grandest illusion of the modern age, the illusion of ownership. We have spent countless hours delving into the depths of the royal vaults beneath Buckingham Palace, examining how the women of the House of Windsor are trapped in a rigid framework where they merely borrow the light of the crown. We know that in the royal family, a tiara belongs to the estate, passing from generation to generation, while the woman wearing it is nothing more than a temporary custodian. We call this the illusion of inheritance. We understand that when Princess Catherine wears the Cambridge Lover's knot, she is simply signing a loan agreement, borrowing a heavy, swinging cage of pearls that she can never truly possess. But the public has always falsely believed that outside the palace walls, money could buy absolute dominion. They believed that Elizabeth Taylor, the Queen of Hollywood, was fundamentally different from the Queens of England. They believed that because Richard Burton wielded millions of dollars at Sotheby's and Cartier, Taylor conquered these historical stones. Today, we declare that this is the ultimate fallacy. Elizabeth Taylor never owned those jewels. You cannot buy a ghost. You cannot purchase a curse. What Taylor actually did was rent out her own flesh. She offered her legendary neckline, her globally photographed hands, and her fleeting human youth as a temporary sanctuary, a warm, beating host for these centuries-old entities to inhabit, so they could continue to survive, manipulate, and shine in the 20th century. She did not consume the jewels consumed her. In the royal collection, we have spoken of radioactive jewels pieces so heavy with historical trauma, political dominance, or personal tragedy that Queen Elizabeth II deliberately locked them away in the dark for 70 years. But the jewels Elizabeth Taylor invited into her bedchamber were radioactive on an entirely different scale. They are soaked not just in the drama of broken marriages, but in the blood of empires. They are ancient curses masquerading as romantic gifts. To truly understand the danger of these stones, we must stretch our timeline far beyond the glamorous auctions of the 1960s. We must abandon the shallow waters of Hollywood history and plunge headfirst into the chaotic, brutal, and blood-soaked depths of true royal history. We must travel back over 500 years, walking through the corridors of absolute power in the royal houses of England, the Spanish Empire, the French court, and the ancient, mourning empires of India. Consider the La Peregrina. The public is told it is a romantic Valentine's gift, a beautiful pearl once lost in a shag carpet and chewed on by a Pekingese dog. This is a fairy tale designed to distract you. La Peregrina is not just a pearl, it is a silent, creeping phantom that sat against the pulse of Queen Mary I of England, the infamous Bloody Mary, witnessing the fiery executions of heretics and the agonizing collapse of the Tudor-Spanish alliance. Consider the magnificent Krupp diamond, the blinding 3.3-carat jewel that Taylor flashed on every talk show. Behind its flawless Ashur cut lies a radioactive legacy, a stone dripping with the industrial blood of the Nazi war machine, a physical manifestation of the German weapons empire's darkest hours. And consider the Taj Mahal diamond, given to Taylor for her 40th birthday under the guise of the greatest love story ever told. Love is merely the velvet cloth used to cover a curse. It is a relic of profound mourning, a stone of death, grief, and imperial collapse from the Mughal Empire. We are about to embark on a 6-act cinematic journey into the heart of the vault. We will strip away the Hollywood veneer and expose the radioactive cores of these historical titans. Welcome to the ultimate illusion. The vault doors are open, the ghosts are awake, and the temporary custodians are running out of time. Before we can truly confront the ancient phantoms that Elizabeth Taylor invited into her life, we must first understand the unbreakable, cold-blooded laws of the vault. To comprehend the arrogance of Hollywood, we must look at the blueprint of power in the old world. In the British royal family, there is a fundamental, unspoken rule. The crown is eternal, but the woman wearing it is only a temporary custodian. This is the absolute bedrock of what we call the illusion of inheritance. The public looks at a royal balcony and sees a fairy tale of ownership, but the private archives record a reality of rigid, legal detachment. To grasp this deception, let us look at the ultimate symbol of Princess Diana's independence, the Spencer tiara. She wore it on her wedding day while the world watched, and museum audio guides and millions of fans worldwide still call it Diana's tiara. But the legal documents tell a radically different, almost clinical story. The aristocratic Spencer family operates on strict principles of male primogeniture. The jewellery belonged to the estate, passing from father to son completely regardless of sentiment. Women within the family received lifetime access, but they never received ownership. Diana wore the Spencer tiara dozens of times, but she borrowed it every single time, checking it out under family loan protocols and returning it to the estate trustees after the event. She was never its master. She was merely a temporary host for its diamonds. The crown jewels operate with an even more ruthless efficiency. Consider the Cambridge Lover's Knot tiara, a towering structure of diamond arches and suspended pearls given to Diana as a wedding present from Queen Elizabeth II. The public saw a generous, sparkling gift, but the Royal Collection Trust ledger recorded something entirely different, a lifetime loan. For Diana, the tiara became a heavy, painful cage that induced blinding headaches. Yet, the true nature of this jewel was revealed not in life, but in death. When Diana died in the tragic Paris crash in 1997, the terms of the loan were immediately activated. The tiara was crown property and had to be returned. While the world wept in the streets, the Royal Collection Trust staff officially retrieved the piece. Executives managed what she owned, while trustees reclaimed what she had borrowed. The vault, devoid of human emotion, worked faster than grief. When Princess Catherine stepped out in the Lover's Knot decades later, the global media loudly proclaimed that she had inherited Diana's beloved crown. But archivists noted the cold legal repetition. Catherine did not inherit the Lover's Knot. She simply signed an identical document to the one Diana signed in 1981. She operates under the exact same legal status, the same restrictions, and the same return clauses. She borrows light from a vault she does not control. The camera lies about possession every time the shutter closes. This rigid, merciless system of royal loans exposes the fatal hubris of Hollywood. The House of Windsor understands a terrifying truth that Elizabeth Taylor refused to accept. Humans are fragile, decaying vessels, while stones are eternal and unyielding. The royal family built a massive legal and physical framework, the vault, to protect themselves from the overwhelming psychological weight of these objects. Elizabeth Taylor, fueled by millions of dollars and movie star arrogance, believed she could bypass this ancient law of nature through sheer financial purchasing power. She believed that handing over a check at a Sotheby's auction made her a queen in her own right. She bought the Krupp, she bought La Peregrina, she bought the Taj Mahal diamond. She believed the financial transaction made her the absolute master of the stones. But diamonds do not recognize bank transfers, and pearls do not care about celebrity status. They only recognize time, blood, and survival. By stripping away the protective institutional detachment of a royal trust and bringing these items into her private bedchamber, Taylor didn't conquer these historical phantoms. Instead, she left herself entirely unprotected against them. She invited radioactive entities into her personal life, mistaking their icy, predatory brilliance for submission. She thought she was building a collection, but in reality, she was simply opening her veins to the ghosts of the past. Let us drag the timeline back across the centuries. We must leave behind the flashing bulbs of 20th century paparazzi and descend into the gloomy, suffocating, and treacherous corridors of 16th century Europe. If you want to understand the true arrogance of Elizabeth Taylor's collection and the sheer terror of what she invited into her life, you must look at the pearl she wore so proudly. The media, obsessed with the superficial, has endlessly regurgitated the Hollywood fairy tale. Richard Burton outbidding a Spanish duke at a tense Sotheby's auction in 1969, paying a record sum to present this heavy, teardrop-shaped marvel to Taylor as a token of his explosive, unstoppable love. It is a story of excess, passion, and triumph. It is also a complete and utter lie. La Peregrina the Wanderer is not a romantic trinket. It is a silent, unblinking witness to the collapse of empires and the madness of monarchs. It is a phantom that has outlived every single human being who ever dared to claim it as their own. Its documented nightmare begins in the blood-soaked expansion of the Spanish Empire. When it was dragged from the depths of the Gulf of Panama, it did not symbolize romance. It symbolized absolute, unquestioned conquest. It eventually belonged to King Philip II of Spain, a sovereign who ruled over an empire so vast that the sun never set on his dominions. But Philip did not keep the pearl for himself. He weaponized it. He sent it across the sea to a cold, isolated island as a bridal gift for his new wife, Queen Mary I of England. History remembers her as Bloody Mary. Imagine this magnificent heavy pearl resting against the collarbone of the Tudor queen. As it lay against her skin, it absorbed the darkest, most violent chapter of English royal history. La Peregrina was there, glowing in the dim, paranoid candlelight of court, as Mary signed the death warrants of nearly 300 Protestants, sending them to be burned alive at the stake. It was there as the smell of ash and terror choked the streets of London. But the pearl also absorbed her intimate, personal agony. It rested on her chest as she endured the humiliating terror of her phantom pregnancies, her body swelling with the desperate illusion of an heir that never existed. It was the silent companion to her utter devastation when Philip abandoned her, sailing back to Spain and leaving her to die a broken, bitter woman, her kingdom slipping from her grasp. When Mary died, she was immediately stripped of the pearl. She was a temporary custodian, and her lease was up. La Peregrina was ripped from the English court and returned to Spain, where it would spend the next 2.5 centuries nesting in the royal treasury, hanging from the necks and bodices of a succession of Spanish queens. For over 200 years, it witnessed the terrifying, agonizing decay of the Spanish Habsburgs. It was a frontline spectator to centuries of relentless inbreeding, the madness of kings, the tragic succession of stillbirths, and the slow, inevitable rotting of the greatest global superpower the world had ever seen. The pearl fed on the collapse of a dynasty. Fast forward to the modern era. When Richard Burton proudly handed this ancient radioactive artifact to Elizabeth Taylor, he genuinely believed his wealth had conquered history. He believed he had domesticated a legend. Taylor wore it proudly, eventually commissioning Cartier to design a lavish, heavy setting of rubies and diamonds to showcase her prize. She paraded it in films, at galas, and on the covers of magazines, fully believing she was the ultimate queen of this stone. But look closer at the grim reality of this arrangement. The pearl was merely using her. La Peregrina, having exhausted the decaying royal courts of Europe, recognized that the true global power of the 20th century was Hollywood celebrity and mass media. It needed a new host to remain relevant, a new, universally worshipped body to display its flawless luster to the masses. Elizabeth Taylor did not own La Peregrina. She merely rented out her legendary décolletage, acting as a glamorous, breathing billboard for an entity that has survived assassinations, revolutions, and the fall of absolute monarchies. Taylor's beauty eventually faded. Her marriages crumbled into scandal and divorce. Her body failed her, and she eventually returned to the dust from which she came. But La Peregrina, it remains flawless. Not a single scratch, not a single blemish. It simply detached itself from her cold form, retreated into a velvet box, and waited for the auctioneer's hammer to summon its next temporary host. The illusion of ownership is a fatal human disease, and La Peregrina is the eternal, glittering parasite. In the secretive, highly managed world of the British royal vaults, the monarchs and their curators understand a fundamental truth. Some jewels are simply too toxic to touch. Queen Elizabeth II possessed a masterful understanding of this. When she inherited the colossal Delhi Durbar tiara, a towering cathedral of diamonds, created to celebrate the British Empire's dominance over India, she immediately locked it away. She recognized that this massive crown was politically radioactive, a heavy relic of an imperial world that no longer existed, and to wear it would have been a catastrophic mistake. She understood that some stones carry a devastating historical weight that no amount of modern PR can erase. Elizabeth Taylor possessed no such caution. Where the Queen of England saw danger, the Queen of Hollywood saw only a spotlight. And because of this fatal blind spot, Taylor welcomed one of the most toxic, radioactive diamonds in modern history directly onto her ring finger. We are talking about the Krupp diamond. To the untrained eye of the public, this breathtaking 33.19-carat Ascot diamond is the ultimate emblem of Elizabeth Taylor's glamorous, jet-setting life. It was the ring she flashed in interviews, the stone she wore in her films, and the ultimate, multi-million-dollar flex of Richard Burton's devotion. It was marketed to the world as the pinnacle of 20th century romance. But look at the name, Krupp. This diamond is not a symbol of love. It is a physical manifestation of industrial slaughter. Before it ever touched the manicured hands of a Hollywood actress, it belonged to Vera Krupp, a prominent member of the notorious German industrial dynasty. The Krupp family were the titans of steel and artillery who armed the German Empire. They were the primary weapons manufacturers for the Nazi war machine during World War II, a dynasty whose vast fortune was forged in the fires of conflict, devastation, and the blood of millions. This diamond was bought with the spoils of war. It carries the invisible, suffocating ash of a destroyed Europe. When Richard Burton purchased this stone and slipped it onto Elizabeth Taylor's finger, he did not cleanse it of its horrific past. You cannot scrub the blood of an empire off a 33-carat diamond. Instead, the stone executed a brilliant, chilling strategy of survival. In the aftermath of World War II, a diamond bearing the name Krupp was a horrific liability. It needed a distraction. It needed a new, blindingly famous host to launder its reputation. Elizabeth Taylor was not the master of the Krupp diamond. She was its human shield. The stone used her staggering beauty, her international fame, and the endless flashbulbs of the paparazzi to burn away its dark history. It fed on her celebrity to rebrand itself from a relic of the Nazi armaments empire into an icon of American pop culture. Taylor thought she was wearing a trophy, completely oblivious to the fact that she was merely a temporary custodian, providing safe harbor for a radioactive phantom until the world forgot where it truly came from. If the Krupp diamond is a monument to war, the next piece in this illusion is a monument to the grave. Society is hopelessly addicted to romantic fairy tales, eager to believe that a massive gemstone is the ultimate proof of an unbreakable vow. For her 40th birthday in 1972, Richard Burton presented Elizabeth Taylor with a heart-shaped diamond, inscribed with Arabic script and strung on a heavy gold chain. It was the legendary Taj Mahal diamond. The media erupted. It was immediately canonized as the greatest romantic gift of the century, a modern echo of ancient love. Burton famously joked that he would have bought Taylor the actual Taj Mahal building, but it would cost too much to transport. It makes for a fantastic headline, but love is often the most effective, velvet-lined disguise for a curse. Let us plunge back into the 17th century, to the sprawling, ancient heart of the Mughal Empire in India. The Taj Mahal diamond was owned by Emperor Shah Jahan. The history books tell us he gave it to his favorite wife, Mumtaz Mahal. But we must look at the energy this stone absorbed. Mumtaz Mahal did not live a long, happy life draped in these jewels. She died in agonizing pain while giving birth to her 14th child. The emperor was so entirely destroyed by her death that he plunged the empire into mourning and bankrupted his realm to build the actual Taj Mahal, not as a palace of love, but as a colossal marble tomb, a mausoleum. This diamond is not a joyful wedding band. It is a relic of profound, inconsolable grief. It is a stone soaked in the tears of a broken emperor, the cries of a dying mother, and the subsequent, bloody collapse of the Mughal dynasty as Shah Jahan's own son overthrew him and imprisoned him until his death. The diamond was born in tragedy, and it radiates the energy of loss. When Richard Burton placed this ancient, cursed artifact around Elizabeth Taylor's neck, he believed he was crowning their legendary romance. In reality, he was introducing a radioactive phantom of grief and separation into their lives. Is it any wonder that the Taylor-Burton romance was one of the most volatile, destructive, and agonizingly tempestuous relationships in Hollywood history? They loved each other to the point of madness, marrying and divorcing each other twice, completely unable to find peace together. They thought they owned the Taj Mahal diamond, but the diamond, carrying the centuries-old curse of Shah Jahan's eternal mourning, simply did what it was designed to do. It watched another empire of love collapse. Elizabeth Taylor was just another temporary custodian, wearing a beautiful, glittering tombstone around her neck, completely unaware that the ghost of the Mughal Empire was pulling the strings. And so, we return to the present. We return to April 2026, and to the glittering, frantic montage of Taylor Swift's Elizabeth Taylor music video, when Swift flashes the imagery of the Krupp, Peregrina, and the Cartier rubies across the screen. The world sees a tribute to a Hollywood legend. But now, you know the truth. You are watching the phantoms wake up. These stones are not mourning Elizabeth Taylor. They have already moved on. They are simply using a new era of pop culture and a new global superstar to broadcast their survival. This is the ultimate terrifying reality of the illusion of inheritance. The British royal family, for all its flaws, understands the brutal physics of time and jewellery. They know that there is a rigid rule in royal families. The crown is eternal, but the woman wearing it is only a temporary custodian. They understand that when a princess poses for a portrait, the cameras lie about possession every time the shutter closes. The royals built heavy steel doors and deep, air-conditioned underground vaults, not just to protect the jewels from thieves, but to protect the human beings from the overwhelming, crushing weight of the jewels themselves. The vault is patient. It acts as a waiting room, knowing that human lives are fleeting while history is a pendulum. Queen Elizabeth II survived for 70 years on the throne because she was a master of detachment. She knew how to lock the radioactive ghosts of history in the dark. She knew that you do not try to conquer a stone that has outlived an empire. Elizabeth Taylor's fatal mistake was believing her own press. She believed that because she possessed the wealth of a modern monarch, she possessed the power to master these ancient entities. She brought them out of the protective, clinical isolation of the royal vaults and auction houses, and she strapped them to her own beating pulse. Look at the bodies left in the wake of these stones. Queen Mary Tudor is dust. Shah Jahan is dust. The Krupp dynasty has collapsed. Richard Burton is gone. And Elizabeth Taylor has taken her final bow. The temporary custodians have all expired, their flesh and bones returning to the earth. But the diamonds, the pearls, the rubies, they have not aged a single second. They have not lost a single fraction of their blinding, icy fire. They are completely, terrifyingly pristine. They were born in the crushing pressure of the Earth's mantle millions of years before human beings walked the planet, and they will continue to shine long after our entire civilization has crumbled. In her memoir, Elizabeth Taylor confessed that we are all just temporary custodians of beauty. She was right, but she didn't realize the horror of her own statement. You cannot own a diamond. You cannot buy a 500-year-old pearl. You can only offer up your youth, your skin, and your fleeting human heartbeat to give it a place to rest for a few decades. The illusion of ownership is broken. The Hollywood fairy tale is a lie. The jewels are awake, the ghosts are restless, and they are already searching for their next host. Thank you for stepping into the darkness with us today. The vault doors are closing for now, but the phantoms remain. Until next time.